Hey everybody, this is Dawn Marisa Lace with Your Awesome Life, and I am here with uh like three of my favorite people. Um, if you watch this or listen to this podcast, you know that Jennifer Brunton and Jenna Gensic are the co-authors of the hashtag Actually Autistic book series and people that I adore and that I am regularly in conversation with. And I met Dr. Angela Kingdon a couple of months ago and got very autistically excited. I fall in love with people very easily. I get very excited with their brains, and then I'm just like, I must know you, and you are now my friend. So I am super excited that the four of us get to have a conversation. And we decided, at least for this one, we were going to talk about special interests, which is very unique in my world. And I'll say something later. But first, Angela, please tell people about you in case they don't know. And if you don't know, you should. And Angela just came out with a book and you need to read the book. It's really, really good. It just happened, just dropped. But yeah, what should we know about you?
Well, first of all, my name is Angela Kingdon, as you said, and my special interest is special interests. So there's that. So I'm very excited about this conversation today. I also run the Autistic Culture Podcast Network and the Autistic Culture Substack newsletter that goes with it. And I'm so happy to be here with Jennifer and Jenna because I'm secretly part of their book series. My book is called Am I Actually Autistic? No hashtag, but I feel like we could just add it in there and I could be a part of the Christmas sale that is going on right now for the Actually Autistic Guide to Advocacy and Guide to Independence. So I got your email today and I was like, oh, sounds like that book. I'm a fan.
Another next year we'll put a third one in.
Yes, I'm in the club. I'm very excited about that.
And Near Awesome Life can have all of the books gathered together, right? So there's one place for everybody to find them.
I love that.
Perfect.
I love that. So I am a writer, lifelong writer. Actually, my lifelong special interest is writing. Special interest only became my special interest in the last few years, but the Autistic Culture Podcast really is a tribute to the healing power of special interests and what we cover on the show. Right now, we're working on some episodes about artists. We're doing a conceptual artist series. So like David Bowie / Ziggy Stardust and Stephanie Germanotta / Lady Gaga, Chappell Roan, Kid the Band Kiss, Prince, or the artist formerly known as Prince. And we're looking at autism and conceptual artistry, which are also often the artists that become our special interests. So that's all sort of connected. I think our next series we're working on is about wrestling, which is a huge special interest among autistic people. Not me, but I love it because I get to dig in and talk to people who are so excited and passionate and emotionally regulated, which is one of the things that happens when you're talking to people about their special interests. You see who they actually are. And I think because as autistic people in our culture values deep connection so much, even if it's a thing I don't care about, which I will tell you, I don't really care about wrestling. Or we did like an episode once on exotic shrimp breeding, which like literally like no interest, but it's one of my favorite episodes because the person, Daniel, who is our guest, is like so into exotic shrimp breeding that it just feels like depth and connection and regulation in a way that I think like the echolocation of hi, how are you? Good, how are you? How's the weather? Feels for neurotypical people. I think that's very regulating for them. And to me, it's like very stressful. But hearing someone talk about exotic shrimp breeds, I'm all in.
And now I did not know there were so many different varieties of shrimp. And now
Fred, it's a thing. And they are pricey. People spend a lot of their paycheck on their exotic shrimps, shrimpies, shrimp things.
Wow. Okay. Yes.
Do not Google it now. We're recording a podcast. Yeah. Fingers down, everyone. So I think that's my introduction. That's what I have to say. I'm really excited to be here. We did meet because of my research on self-diagnosis versus medical diagnosis and the accuracy of it, which was my dissertation that I'm still in the process of getting into a peer-reviewed journal. But that is now done and graded, and I have graduated. So
Yeah,
Well done.
how you and I met. I
right.
got really, really excited. Angela released all of that out into the world so that us lay people who don't have access to the fancy journals could have access to the information. And I was really grateful. And I did what I do, which I did originally with Jenna and Jennifer. I'm like, hey, I really like you. I like what you're doing. Talk to me, please.
Will you be my friend?
But I'm super interested in this topic in part because I think one of the reasons why it took me so long to accept that I'm autistic is I couldn't see myself through the lens of special interest.
Oh.
I think in part because I knew like so many people who are deeply into Star Trek or deeply into rocks or, like things that I find interesting. I find most things interesting, at least briefly. So Angela, I can totally appreciate like such a cool episode about shrimp or what's coming up, wrestling, right? You don't have to like want to know about that forever, but briefly, super interesting, especially if you're talking to somebody who's really on fire about it. But I realized that basically I popped out of the womb with the special interest of understanding the human being. My book starts with my earliest memory, which is somewhere around me being 5 or 6 months old. And I was propped in the corner of a chair, and I became very aware that the adults in the room weren't going to catch me if I fell out of the chair. And I started plotting how I could fall and stay in the chair because I wasn't totally capable of holding myself up yet. This is a very vivid memory. And I've checked in with my mom. Like I remember the apartment we were in great detail. I remember who was there, right? I have such a memory of this place that I was never in again after this moment that I'm pretty confident that this is a real memory and it's one I've always had. And I remember looking up at these people and thinking they're very nice people, but they're never going to understand how to take care of me. And something in that moment turned on within me where I started feeling a deep need to understand these fellow humans, how they communicate, how they deal with each other, and there's a lot more to it, a lot more to the story than that, but everybody expected me to go to college for something having to do with the arts, acting, music, those sorts of things, because I was really good at it. But I wanted to go into education. I wanted to learn how people learn. I wanted to know how the brain functioned. I didn't think of that as my special interest because, one, it was so lifelong and so academic. My approach to it was so academic. And no one had ever explained special interest to me in that way. But now I kind of think it's possible that anyone who pursues a doctorate might be autistic because how do you pick a subject and focus on it?
Sociology.
In such detail and write about it and talk about it and like have it as this thing that follows your name forever without that being your special interest. Like I know there are people who do it, but I don't know. I think if you're that passionate about a thing that you're actually going to devote 4 to 8 to more years to a topic, maybe you're autistic, right? So I'm going to try to be a little bit quiet. I just wanted to say that up front because I think sometimes part of the reason why we don't think of ourselves as autistic is we don't have that history of lining things up as a child, right? We hear that's supposed to be a thing. We're not quoting facts to everybody. We're not, we don't do the special interest in the way we're told autistic people do the special interest.
Some of us. I mean, I'm sitting here going, great, listening, but going, I was 1,000,000,000%. I mean, I was in my public library at the age of 6 requesting that they order all of the books about cats from the entire state system and dinosaurs.
Interlibrary loan baby, ILL, let's
Like
go.
at 6, like had read every book about cats in the public library system. So some of us, yeah, but there are all different kinds of ways to be it. But I was poster child of yeah.
For
Yeah.
me,
And
it was
and
reality. I didn't want to read
yeah,
the picture
yeah,
books. I wanted to read the encyclopedias. And the
yeah,
kindergarten librarian was like,
yeah,
"What are you doing, sweetheart?" Like,
yeah,
those
yeah.
don't tell the truth. I want to read the books that tell the truth. Right? Like, I was such a strange child.
Well, I was very strange too, and I feel like I actually was had so much fun with that chapter that Angela shared because we have a lot of overlapping special interests, and we could probably, like we did at the beginning of this before we were recording, like we could go on some deep dives about some certain musical personalities and things like that, or celebrities. I don't know what, even though we are extremely distinguished academics. But you know what? Something that I was thinking about, and it relates to all of our different life situations, is that I didn't really realize how important my special interests were until I found myself, and this is something that you talk about in your chapter too, and that we have as sort of on our agenda for today. I found myself in situations where I wasn't able to pursue them. So like growing up, the the way that I lived most of my life, I spent about 9 months a year in New York City, and then I spent about 4 months a year in Maine with no electricity, often no running water. I was right in my own little cabin on the ocean, and I was just alone that entire time. And I was, whatever it was, I was researching specific types of flowers, or I was doing, researching yoga philosophy, and I was writing constantly and reading constantly and making art constantly and walking constantly. And I was able to do that much of my life. And then when I had children and then was a single mom, it was really much harder and it became, and my personality almost changed, like because I was unable to feed that part of myself that was the most regulating, the most soothing, and the most joyous. And then just as I was sort of coming around finally to be able to go back into all of that, my son came home and dropped out of college with his girlfriend, and they started having babies. And now I have these babies again. So the grief that you talk about, Angela, of like not being able to do, also, I'm not going to go into this. I could totally hijack the entire podcast, but one of my number one special interests is gardening, and I have voles. We don't need to talk about it.
Oh,
It is the worst. It is but I'm not going to talk about that. I'm just going to say like I really relate to this concept of the grief of not being able to and I think I would be a much better person, mother, grandmother. I mean, I'm a good mother. I'm a good grandmother. Like I'm doing fine. But it's just like I think that I would have so much more to offer if I had, like realistically, I would rather have like about 6 days a week alone and 1 day with all these people. But if I could just have like a couple hours a day, but those of you who've had young kids, I can't. This
right.
is all I have. And during this 1 hour, I usually honestly am like picking up the tornado. So anyway, just wanted to say that because I'm that poster child of like literally knew everything, special interests all my life were the way that I fed myself, fed my soul, fed my spirit. And it is, I'm a, I would really like to be able to do that more. You
Yeah.
know? Yeah. So,
Jenna, and we've talked about this previously in our little podcast meetings. You're current, are you still currently identifying as neurotypical?
So yes, I am. But it's so funny you say that because I just I don't know. The universe is speaking to me. More and more people are bringing up this idea.
You
So
should see the list that she made. She made the list of all lists. And I was like, honey, like, I don't
I
know.
am a list
No.
person. I am
Yeah.
a list. Yeah. So yes, I do identify as neurotypical. However, I am completely open to whatever would come my way should I ever figure that out. But yes, I would say actually, Angela, I think it was how you were, I think it might have been in your in the the podcast that you guys did with Dawn Marie earlier, you were talking about like autistic traits versus like having autistic so
Mm.
I do have several autistic traits, but I have failed miserably like any kind of like pre-screening thing. So and I know those are like have their, there's plenty of issues with those. But so anyway, no, I mean I'm currently identifying as neurotypical, but I have several like so my husband is autistic, I have an autistic, my oldest son is autistic, and my brother is autistic, one of my younger brothers. So I've lived that reality or identity in a lot of different ways. And I do, while I tend to share plenty of autistic traits, I hesitate to formally own the diagnosis because I've heard plenty of people also, I want to respect the idea that not everybody's autistic and
Yeah.
we are honoring the differences that we have too. So anyway, I guess you could call me somewhere in the middle right now, but as I also um, wanted to piggyback off of what Jenny was saying, because I was also, what stood out in the chapter that you wrote, Angela, I was thinking about how I think it was your I think it might have been your sister that said, like, you're just so much better when you have a project or something. Was that your
That was
sister who
how
said
my
that?
sister saved my life. I was
Yeah.
on the brink of ending it all. And she's like, I
Okay.
think you just need a project. You're so much better when you have a project.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
And
you
that is
realized
how the
that was,
Autistic Culture podcast was born.
Yes.
that's cool.
Yes.
And I was thinking that just when I read that, it reminded me of how different my oldest son is, who's 17, when he is like engaging with his special interests. So kind of like Jenny, what you said, it's like you're just a kind of a different person when you have that time or that space to
A
do it.
better person,
And
like
yeah, yes,
happier.
yes. And
Yeah.
I see that with my son, who I think if people wouldn't see him talking about or engaging in some of the things that he's interested in, I think they would describe him as pretty withdrawn, pretty I don't know, they might just say that he likes to be alone, or that he's quiet. But if you were to ask him about like a recent NBA game statistic or something, he just like, it's like snap. And then he goes into he'll engage with you in all sorts of different ways. Or if he also likes to make up his own games. Like I think it comes from a place where he's had difficulty fitting into the rules of different systems and different games around him. So he can kind of control, if he can control a setting, and make up a game that other people like to do. It's usually some kind of physical game. Like he takes his siblings in the backyard and they make up all sorts of things. But if he finds something and he figures out rules that everybody likes to play, he will draw brackets, and there's seasons, and there's different team names and all sorts of stuff. But it's very detailed. But if you were to just like, if anybody showed a little bit of interest in what he was doing, he will he lights up, he's smiling, he's engaged, and you can tell that he's just enjoying himself. But if nobody were to ask those questions or to see that part of him, I think they would describe him in a completely different way. So I think some things where I think some of that people would describe as juvenile too. He's 17, but he makes up a game in our backyard called line ball, where it's a very physical game, but he's still allowed to play it, and he can play it in certain ways and participate. It's a very I want to say this, like neutralizing game where you can have all different types of abilities, but people can still compete. But that's what he loves to do. And he's kind of got a bracket for the neighborhood, or any neighborhood kid who might show up at our house that's like 8 years younger than him that wants to play, he will, fit them in. I think most people would describe that as a senior in high school doing that with his free time is pretty juvenile. But for him, it's great. Like, it's like his social time, it's his free time. And I've learned that like, that's okay. That's totally appropriate. And that's welcome here.
Entire career. That's game design. Like that's an entire career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's taking AP stats right now and loves it. And so I think that it is kind of, suiting it. But anyway, when I was reading about your like, oh, you're so much better when you have a project sort of thing, it's like, okay, I totally see this. It's not just as like it is, I we've already said this, but it is kind of a need to like, regulate yourself emotionally and intellectually, like just it is a need to like manage, your body in that way. But it does also just in my house, it seems like it brings more joy. The more we allow it, it's like more joy that is in the house, and people are happier and they're engaged more, and just people are getting along better, and they're just more respectful towards each other, and people are just happier.
One of the other things I wanted to jump in with, Dawn, just is that masking and also burnout can cover up your special interests if they are like for lots of reasons. But like, let's say you're into something that feels not age appropriate or weird, or people might make fun of you for it. Those things can not just be suppressed, but you can sometimes not even see them or know them yourself. So, what I have found in working with the late diagnosis club that I run is I have a lot of people come to that group that are like, oh, I just don't have a special interest. But really, they haven't let themselves be a person. Maybe Jennifer, because they have kids and they can't garden, they can't do the thing. And so they are other caretaking responsibilities, or they've just been masking. And like there is it in some ways, and for some people, a privilege to being able to express your special interest, especially if it doesn't easily fit in to your life, into your family, into if it's just seen as something girls don't do, or you know. So
And
I
Dawn
think there
Marie,
it
your
is complicated.
family, right? I mean,
Yeah, I used to get in trouble for reading. I mean, I know that sounds really strange, but
yeah.
I loved reading. I it's pretty much all I wanted to do, and I'd get in trouble for it. I would have to like sneak it. I would have to wait until everybody was asleep and
This makes so much sense. And then obviously, like you're a human in addition to being neurodivergent. So you're going to adapt. You might pick up other hobbies, even if they weren't like as good. Like there are
yeah,
ways where if that's encouraged, that your special interest can become even more nurturing. And but if it's punished, or what ABA does, and you
Ugh.
can only have it as a reward or something, then it changes the nature of like one of my special interests was theater. I did a theater major in school. I got out and I got a job in theater. And then in order to pay my bills, I had to do plays, even plays I didn't like. Like it was
yeah.
now my job. It was immediately no longer my special interest.
Mm.
So like that cured that problem. So I think it is more complicated than it seems. And when I know I advocate for special interests as a major form of self-care, it is with also the consciousness that sometimes work has to be done for that to be able to be self-care.
Mm.
Yeah, I think too, one of the things I was thinking about before now, in prep for having this conversation was, you know, what were some of the things that were in the way of me understanding myself, and developing myself, with that knowledge. And there was a lot. But finances were definitely one of those things. Um,
Yeah.
when you can't, if your special interests need some amount of financial input, if you got to buy a thing on occasion, you might not be able to do that.
Yeah.
You might not even discover what lights your fire if you don't have access. You just plain don't have access. And so, like, discovering my crafty side, was always very tricky because, it was up until very recently in my life, money has always been something that has been difficult or not available in my life. So, like even buying crafting supplies or things like that just wasn't a thing, So I think for some people, um, finding that special interest that could be utilized as self-care um, isn't accessible to them. Uh, whether it's financially, maybe access to whatever it is, like maybe you would be totally on fire for, the giant uh, trees in California, but you're never making it to California because you live someplace where that's not accessible to you, right? Like maybe if you got there, you'd be like, "Oh, I'm going to be here forever and I'm going to study them and I'm going to know everything there is." But you won't have that experience, you know?
I think it's important though to like make a distinction there, Dawn Marie, between it seeing it as a privilege in the sense that people with more resources can have a privilege versus something that is as almost as necessary as food. Like it's not an extra, like
Oh,
as it's and I know that you know
yeah,
that. I'm saying it here. Like I'm just hitting
yeah,
top of
good.
what we're saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and if I, like, me, so
Oh, right. So, of course. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
if they gave the impression that somehow that
You definitely
No, no,
didn't, but
no,
I
not
think
at all.
it's
Not at
such a
all.
we're
Yeah.
great
saying, yeah,
Yeah. Not at all. Sorry.
call.
Not at all. Yeah.
I think it's such a great call to elder autistics to like if you do have those resources, invite younger people or not even younger people, but other autistic people to participate. And like one of the things I'm so passionate about just thinking about crafting is the way that we've seen libraries in the US evolve.
Oh, yeah.
So our
Yeah.
library, at least in Maryland, has a 3D printer. They have a glass etching tool. They have sewing machines. And you can not just take out a book, you could take out a sewing machine.
oh, that's
People
cool.
bring in extra fabric. They do crochet, beginner knitting. I can't remember what it is, but they have some sort of fiber crafts classes at the library. Like these things are not optional and they don't have to be optional. They are, difficult for many people to afford, but we can make that as mutual aid, particularly for other neurodivergent people out there. Like people have scraps for leftover quilts that they didn't use all that fabric. Like we need to get all of the stuff in our houses out into people's hands, whatever, maybe it's old kayaks you're not using, whatever those things are, getting those to autistic people is life saving. And it's not an understatement. My special interest saved my life for sure.
Yeah. And just to be clear, I know you, Domri, 1,000,000% know that you didn't mean that at all. I just wanted for
Oh
the
yeah,
audience, I wanted to just make that distinction that it's not like, oh, shall I go skiing in Gstaad or in, Colorado? It's more like, do I have the like whatever those resources are, like I need it, it's not extra. And it's
yeah,
so nourishing to your soul. And I love this idea of and I talk more than I would like to in libraries and but not that it's more talking. It's not more libraries. I could be in libraries all the time, but they are just the most this new library of things. I don't know how new it is, but I mean in the last decade or so, I mean that is amazing. It's so amazing. And they're all of the ones that I've visited, and it's like 20 this year or something, they all are doing like literally proactively, actively projects for neurodiversity, neurodivergence in the libraries. Like we have these things, we're making this room, like it's fantastic. Yeah.
Oh, and I have to shout out, have you read The World's Strongest Librarian, The Strongest Librarian in the World? Do you know this book? I mean, obviously we could shout out the new Reading Rainbow guy,
Oh, I
Michael.
Oh,
love
oh,
he
Yeah, Michael
became the
Tree too
reading.
is the best. But this book, which is called The World's Strongest Librarian by Josh Hanagarn, has Tourette's and is probably also autistic, but definitely is neurodivergent and a librarian. And it's his journey to being a librarian that really opened my eyes to what libraries actually provide. Because I guess just being a book girl, I thought it was books. And it is so much more. If you are not donating to a library, involved in a library, and you care about neurodivergent people, like put that on the top of your list. I think it's, well, yesterday was Giving Tuesday, but anyway, give to libraries. They are saving autistic kids' lives and
yes.
autistic adults' lives.
And oh yeah, all kinds of people, neurodivergent people's lives.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, our library has a seed and plant exchange corner. So you can bring, like, if you have plants at home you can clip them and they'll grow roots. You can bring your little clipping in, and they have all of these little places where you can put your
Cool.
little plant that will grow roots. And if you want that plant, you can take it home and plant it. And there's this whole set of drawers for seed sharing.
Unless you have bowls. Nothing.
Well, okay, so if people don't know what a vole is, it's a little rodent that lives on the ground and eats your roots and kills everything. And they have
And
these
then you come
squishy
over
little
and your plant is
faces.
like this, and there's
Right,
nothing underneath it, just a hole.
right.
Sorry, but
Um,
I said I wouldn't talk about them. It's just that there was there was a I'm gonna
There's a
there was an
moment. There was
opening.
a moment.
sorry.
Mhm.
There was a moment. Yes, voles are these
No
really.
seed library for you. You can have windowsill plants.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I enjoy gardening, and I'm not very good at it, and creatures. So, like, I tried for the first time in my life to grow tomatoes. I was very excited, as were the chipmunks.
Oh yeah.
The chipmunks were like, "You have made us presents. Thank you so much." So we got very few tomatoes, in part because I didn't know what I was doing. I learned a little bit from this experiment, but this next year I'm going to have to figure out how to grow tomatoes covered, because the chipmunks,
You know,
they don't
that's
like the green tomatoes, but they literally sit there and wait for the
if they're
tomato to
right.
turn, and they grab that tomato and run away. So,
That's actually a really good segue to one of the topics that I think we came out of our last conversation of just the three of us, where we talked about how to reconcile a household, a multi neurodivergent household where self-care and special interests might slightly conflict. So let's say you have, I could just give examples from my own household, but some of us love to like make really loud noises repetitively over and over, and some of us need things to be really quiet so that we can quietly do our other thing. So like one of the things that and I don't think we had like a lot of answers for that. We were all just talking about how that comes up in our day-to-day life. And as the world's expert on special interests, perhaps Angela, you have thoughts on that. Like how do we kind of coexist in those scenarios?
Yeah, this is a big one. I mean, the first thing is no matter how small your space is, if you have neurodivergent people in your house, they need their own space. I learned this. I was married to an Indian, and they had a pretty small house, and they had ways to be in the big open room, but be alone. And so for us, it might be headphones. For them, it was yoga poses. So basically, in their living room, I don't know why, but the way, I guess because somebody slept there, there was a bed, there was like a single bed in the living room. There was a couch and a coffee table, but there's also a single bed. And when somebody went on the bed and sat in a yoga pose, they were alone, even though they were in the middle of the living room, and everyone knew that. So I know everybody has different space allocations. In a perfect world, everyone has their own room, but if not, there needs to be a way to get your own space and to be able to do your special interests in a safe space. Obviously, your room is preferred, but that isn't an option for everyone. And then, like, having co-working time, co-regulating time, where like for me, because one of my major special interests is podcasts, I have my headphones on a lot. And that definitely, like, I remember as a kid, my parents were like, I always had my headphones on and I was being antisocial, right? And being able to, within your family system, support that, headphones in my case or something that's different. But like, if my husband's not into boxing, but let's say my husband's special interest was boxing, or at one point it was my son's who's ADHD, that, because of my hyper empathy, I just cannot do box. Like I just can't, it's just not a list. So I can be supportive without going to boxing. So I dropped him off. I met him with a Starbucks after, but I would let him talk about it because that wasn't triggering to me, but I was never going to go watch him box. So I think it's really observing and knowing what everyone's special interests are and being able to support those in a way that is also regulating for you. So for me as a writer, I block out on the calendar when I am not going to be available because I'm writing. Like it's very much about communication. So it doesn't feel like rejection. Because especially if you have different neurodivergent, both of my husband and I are neurodivergent, it can feel like you're rejecting someone for your special interest. One of my special interests is the rock band Crowded House. I asked my husband once, they were playing near here. And I was like, hey, do you want to come to a Crowded House show with me? And he's like, I mean, if you can't find anyone else to go with, I'll come. Friend, no. First of all, I would rather go alone. I would rather go alone, full stop. Anyway, to everything forever. I would rather be alone with my special interest. But I definitely don't want to be with somebody who is there if I can't find someone else. Do you not know what a special interest is? No, like terrible suggestion. So, yeah, understanding I'm not cheating on you. I am having an affair with my special interest, however, and creating space for that, I think is more important than necessarily sharing it. I don't actually want to share my special interest with someone who it's not their special. That's not a ton of fun. My husband's special interest is the US Civil War. I try really hard, but like I just don't really want, and not just like but like really like military tactics, like
Oh God.
battlefields and bullet. I don't even know what it is. I can't names. It's a lot of names and dates and the things that they did. So I'm not a good person to talk to that, but there's a lot of people who are super into that. You should go talk to them. How can I make that possible? How can you do that when I'm writing my book? Or listening to my podcast, please. So, yeah, those are some of my off the top of my head thoughts. What do you guys do? Jenna, do you guys have mixed special interests in your household?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think, but as you were talking, I was reminding me that I feel like I want to bring up the idea too that special interests, while they can are obviously very important for the individual, I think they're when we really kind of appreciate and understand or kind of take the time to understand other people's special interests, we can see how it kind of benefits the whole family. Because I feel like I've recently figured this out with my husband, who has a couple special interests, but one of them right now, really for the last probably decade, is basketball. I mean, we all of our kids are in basketball all year long. He trains them. He played college basketball. We watch training videos. We go to NBA games. We go to WNBA games. We there's it is and he coaches, and so it consumes our life in very healthy ways. And I think it took me a while while I understand the benefits of sports and all that stuff, I played a lot of sports, so I was on board with all that. It took me a while to really appreciate all of the benefits of that special interest and what that has for a family. Because I think I initially saw it as oh yeah, I like watching my kids play basketball. They're all doing well. They're learning that you have to work hard to meet a goal. They're learning great sportsmanship and team. I understand all that, but I I don't like I understand that it was I think I at one point I viewed it as kind of a selfish thing that my husband was going through. Like he likes basketball, so it's like being forced on everybody else, or this is all about what you want and less about what the kids want or what's best for everybody else. But he's I mean, when we talk about that and he's kind of shared with me, communicated that it's like this is like a way that he's spending time and being involved with his kids. He's a great dad. He's a great teacher. He's a professional teacher. And so when he trains kids, he is very serious about how he does that, not because he to see, wants them to get to a certain level, but because he studies about the right ways to teach and coach. Like he studies the brain and uses that pedagogy. And when he's in the driveway with our kids, he talks to them about their day, their shot and their day. And it's like, that's like a time that he has communicated is like, yes, I like this, but I also like it because it's opening up this opportunity for my kids, for me to spend time with my kids in a way that he knows how to and is comfortable. Like he's not the dad that goes home and is on the couch and is watching TV and is like, oh, come on and tell me about your day. That's not what he does. He has a battery that never dies and he is doing things all the time. And he is way more productive and efficient than I am, and I consider myself pretty productive and
Whoa,
efficient,
whoa,
like
whoa.
to an exponential degree. So he uses that energy to try his best to engage with his kids in positive ways, and it is a balance. But I think that that's been an evolution for me in understanding like all the positives and productivity that comes with that. Like, yes, I know he likes basketball and he needs to play basketball and learn about basketball. But as I see how he's tried to healthily manage that with our kids, that's been like an evolution. And I think my understanding, like, and I need to understand too, like, if I think this is too much, or hey, we've scheduled too much for this week or this month, which we've tried to our best to communicate that, I I need to understand that if I'm asking him to stop, I'm really restricting or limiting some kind of need he has. So I have to be open to like what that might look like somewhere else. Like that, where else does that energy go? Like understand that we're not just stopping. If I'm asking for a little more, I'm asking for a little bit of give. Then let's talk about what that looks like so that we can all still stay healthy. But yeah, very different. I mean, my husband and I are very different. I'm more of I'm with you in the musicals and the theater. Like, please give me more of those. And I just convinced my husband finally to go to see Wicked with our family over the weekend because we never go to the theater because he'll just sleep. So he just sleeps too. He can't handle the stimulus and he just goes to sleep, which is his way of coping and being there. But he stayed awake and we all had a great time. So.
Nice. Yeah, I
I,
was thinking like more like, oh, go ahead, Marie, go.
I might be doing what you were just gonna do. Um, so in thinking about what I heard in your question, Jennifer, um, all of my kids are adults now. All three adult children were living with us over this past year. Two of them have recently moved out.
Oh,
Uh, part of part of my struggle living with other human beings, um, and it's always been this way, is that I seem to need a lot of quiet.
yeah.
Um, so having children who are not that, they have always had energy, they've been sensory seeking. Uh, some of the music choices, though I appreciate it, it's not music that I can listen to for very long because my nervous system just goes all the wrong ways. Like, uh, I, it's interesting to me how much stuff I can appreciate and temporarily enjoy, and then I can't. Like, done, right? But I also have a lifelong intense trauma history. So I have last year, one of my doctors looked at me and cocked their head and was like, your nervous system's just shot. Why, yes, it is. Right? So my complex PTSD, just hearing somebody else's voice in another room triggers fear. It can be a totally pleasant, happy, nothing is wrong, and my nervous system says bad things are happening. So living with multiple people in the house, hearing their voices, hearing their footsteps, just living with other people, and the amount of personal work I have to do to just it really is survival. I realize that might sound like super dramatic, but for me in my world, it actually is.
But
Living
that's
with other
perspective.
people
Yeah. Yeah.
takes survival skills, not because I don't love them, not because I don't want them to be exuberant and joyful and
Yeah.
talk for half an hour about whatever they're interested in. I I have not found the combination of therapy and medication that calms my brain and body down. Um, I have a 24/7 nonstop repeated antagonist in my being that tells me I am bad and wrong and everyone's going to be angry with me. And I do a lot of personal work and I know that those voices are lying to me and they won't shut up. Right. So when you live around other people and you hear their sounds, and those are the responses your inner being gives you. Oh, there's a person that whatever it is you're doing is probably wrong, and they're going to be angry with you, and you're going to have to hear about what a terrible person you are. Right. So how does somebody like me survive around sensory seeking, hyperlexic, uh,
Extroverted.
extroverted human beings when all I want is a sensory chamber padded cell, a book, and a cup of tea? Right?
And a paintbrush. Just
Yeah, right. Like, it's not that I don't love my people, and I actually really do like this. This is wonderful, and this will take every ounce of energy that I have,
Yeah.
especially since the brain injury. The brain injury made everything that was hard exponentially harder. And no medical professional is helping me find a way out of whatever this is, right? So even if you're not this extreme, right? But maybe you're rejection sensitive and you live with somebody who's very quiet and their quiet feels horrible because why aren't they interacting with me, right? It can be the opposite of me. I need all the quiet. But what if my quiet makes you feel like I hate you,
How do
right?
you live that in an affirming way? How do you live that in your family, in your space? Yeah, where one person wants to listen to metal and one person wants to repeat themselves really loud and they really enjoy it and they're soothing themselves and they're soothing themselves and I need to soothe myself by being alone in a dark room with a paintbrush and a book with a tiny light that doesn't reflect on my face.
Yeah, back in your cabin
Yeah.
in Maine.
Yeah, you did ask the question that I was aiming toward also. Yeah, it's challenging to reconcile all those things.
Well, I think I told you, like, and people think I'm a horrible human being. Literally, from very early on in my children's lives, I started begging them not to have their own children. I'm like, if you need me to be the grandmother, it's never going to be me because I probably should never have been a mother. And I don't know that that's the right thing for me to say, but I know I wasn't the person they needed. Right. And they will tell me as an adult, actually, mommy, we're so many versions of the person that we needed. There was just a lot of other stuff going on. Their sperm donor is a horrible, horrible human being, and we all lived with him for way too long, right? There was a lot of other stuff going on. But my sensory needs were in conflict with theirs. My my intellectual needs were often in conflict with theirs. Our needs felt very apart from each other, and it made us feel like we were in battle with each other. And that's a horrible way to feel as a family. That's a
Yeah,
horrible. as a family.
That is true for me too. It's a little more on the sensory side of things, and it's really like easier to explain from that perspective, in that I really do not like any kind of touch. And then the one thing my child has needed since like in my womb is as much like tight compression touch as possible. Like he is weighted blankets, hugs, pressure at all times. And I am like, never, ever, ever touch me under any circumstances. And so when I was trying to not be dysregulated, but really it was masking, but I didn't think of it like this, I would give him that sensory stuff he needed at my expense, right? And I would just mask. But then when I would hit the wall, I would be like, get off me.
Right.
And that is now interpreted as like abuse. And I don't want to say it wasn't abuse. Like I was super dysregulated. And the one thing I need is to not be touched. And I had a 4-year-old with sticky hands touching me everywhere.
Yeah. Oh,
and
God.
like I
Oh,
could
God.
hold
Oh,
it in and hold it in and hold it in, and then it would not come out great.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like I've hit my child twice. Here's a big surprise, both times at Disney. Like, I think there's a
Disney's hard.
connection, friends.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I know that we've hit the hour mark, and I don't know. If you have to go, please hang up, and I understand.
I got to go in like 2. I do
I
actually.
think this
but
is
I
such an
will just to like
important
wrap
thing.
that, just to wrap that one point up so I don't leave it out there like that, is like I gave you a sensory example, but the thing that I want to say, whether it is sensory or special interest, is to like find what you can do so that both people get their needs met to some extent. So that's why I'm like, I can be with my husband when he's doing soccer. Like I'm not into watching soccer, but that's fine. I sit next to him. I have my headphones on. I hate the sound of soccer. But if I'm listening to a podcast, I can be next to him. Now, with your 4-year-old, harder to negotiate. But if I could go back in time, I actually wouldn't have given him all that deep touch I gave him, because that didn't work for me. Like, as hard as that is to say, I either needed to find someone else to do that or set a much firmer boundary there than always pushing myself to the end and ending up where he feels like he had an abusive childhood, which I don't think is completely wrong. Like, I understand where he gets that. So you can't abandon yourself, even if you are sharing a home with somebody who has different special interests. Find a way to do yoga on a single mattress in a room with other people. Like, find a way to get your special interest there, because it will come out negatively in other ways. So sorry,
Yeah.
Dawn Marie, I just wanted to wrap that.
That's what my kids tell me. They're like, Mom, it's not that you shouldn't have been a mom. You needed support, and you had zero. Not only did you have zero, you lived with and had extended family that were gaslighting narcissists that demeaned you and, literally tried to crush your spirit. Had you had anybody on your side, some of these things that you wish never came out of your mouth, never came out of your body in the direction of your children, maybe wouldn't have happened, because you wouldn't have been so not okay while you were trying to raise your kids. And, I love my kids. Thank you so much for giving me that grace. But I think this goes back to the very beginning of our talk today, our conversation today. And I think we barely grazed it with the library conversation. It's not just get involved with the library. We desperately need community. Right, Angela? If we lived more community-based lives, there may have been some extra trusted adults more regularly available.
So true. This is
Jennifer,
so
with
important.
with your life, if we lived more community lives.
Oh my gosh, I
When
know.
I say this,
Yeah.
like, there's somebody I'm trying to cultivate a friendship with, and I said, hey, would you like to get coffee? And the second they said yes, I went, oh my God, It's like,
When?
wait, I'm gonna have to follow through. Do I invite them? Like the panic that happened. And so like I'm like, okay, I'm gonna treat them because I don't think I can have them in my home because then I'm gonna panic all week long about, is my house okay? Do I have the right food? Do I like, oh my God, I am exhausting to me, right? Like I say we need to cultivate more community, being someone who struggles to cultivate community for lots of different reasons, right? So I can say we need a thing and not fully understand how to enact it, implement it.
Ooh, that sounds like a future podcast.
Right?
Please come
And what
back.
about starting with communication, right? So like everything that we're talking about here is like Jenna talking about how she supports her son in this wonderful interest of games, right? Like we're doing the thing and we're communicating about it. Like the fact that Angela, you're, and I know this is going to resonate with you too, Dawn Marie, the fact that your son can come to you and be like, you didn't do right by me when I was a child, and you can be like, you know what? You're right. I'm there for you and I'm sorry. Like nobody did that in my family.
Yeah,
Right.
But I would be doing, and I have skeletal injuries, honey. If you're starting at that, we're all starting here. We're all starting with how do we do this now? Maybe in the past we didn't do it, and maybe we have a podcast about it next, community or whatever the next podcast is. But like the communication that's starting even here, I think is really healing for me. It feels like we're all encountering similar things in our home, and we don't have the answers, but we're communicating about it, and we're communicating with our kids, like I had almost the exact same thing happen the other day where Ren literally, sorry, I shouldn't use names. My older grandchild literally screamed in my ear and I pushed her away. There was no thought in between there. If I had said, should I push her away after she screams in my ear? Of course I would say no, but like she's 3, she screamed like at the top volume in my ear and I pushed her away, and then we made repairs, like we made mistakes. We talked about it. It was awful and my ear still hurts, but like that's, I think, what I'm seeing in all of us here is like this willingness to be open about it, to be as affirming as we can.
and to say publicly, like,
Yeah.
to admit to some stuff, even if it's in our micro expressions, like,
Yeah.
you know, Jenna, I absolutely adore how supportive you are of all the basketball, and go back and watch your facial expression.
It's like, and basketball.
Sure not. We're admitting some stuff on this.
Great.
Which, don't let your family watch it. It'll be fine.
Yeah. No, but normalizing this, I think, is
Right.
so
Yes.
key.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
that is what
Exactly.
we didn't have. And I think
Right.
that's the best we can do for the people coming behind us. And then they'll do better than us. Like this is insufficient,
Yeah.
but it's better than what we had. And every day, that we learn more, we can give more.
Yeah.
But I know we're near the end of time, and I just want to say, like, reiterate a point that was made earlier, is like special interests are not an extra, they're not a luxury, and they're not a reward. They are a way to regulate and be who you actually are, which the world needs more of.
Yeah.
So it is not
Mhm.
something you can layer in when you're better. It is how you become more fully expressed as you, and finding your path to those. The advice my sister gave me when I lost all my special interests was like, go towards anything that brings you even the slightest bit of joy. If it's a 1 on a scale of 1 to 10 right now, and that's the most you can muster, go towards that. If it's a cup of coffee, go towards that. But if you are in a dark place right now, or if you are in a deep burnout or depression like I was, and there's anything that just makes your brain perk up a little bit, read the next sentence, listen to the next few minutes, like just go a little bit in and see if it can open up that pocket of freedom back to the truth of who you are.
Put
That's
paint
so
in a
great.
Love
squeeze
that.
bottle
Love that.
and an old sheet on the floor, and whenever you need a release, you go squirt paint on the sheet. Like it doesn't matter what it is, right? Like,
Yeah.
like it
I'm
doesn't
ready for
matter
it.
what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Find something that reminds you you like you
Oh, yeah.
and you enjoy the untraumatized, the regulated, right? The person you would be if the world were kinder.
Your truest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
your truest self. Your truest self comes out when you are fully enthralled with
So
the
this is permission, right? Like
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
The
for our AFAB people, I think that's particularly can be a challenge. So it's like we're giving ourselves permission, listeners.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. And in
Yeah.
a world that tells us we don't have permission to be
Yeah.
us, period, full stop. Whether that's as people who identify as female,
Yeah.
or for those of us who identify as neurodivergent, or it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
The world has some reason to tell us we're not enough, we're not good enough, and we don't deserve to be ourselves. And I can't thank all of you enough for taking
Yeah.
this time and being so open and real and sharing in the way that you did. I'm going to go have a good cry because you've already
Yeah.
broken my
I
heart.
know, I might too.
I'm,
Yep. 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 Yep.
sometimes I don't, but but thank you. Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you,
Thank
thank you.
you.
And I hope
Thanks for
the
organizing.
four of us get together again. This was a blast.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about what community can look like. I'm excited for our next conversation.
Do it.
Absolutely.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.